note, heavy spoilers ahead. You currently can't swing a metaphorical cat in any social media sphere without leaving claw marks on countless Squid Game related content. A Squid Game pinata of content lays broken open, mostly devoured, hope to offer you a Reese's buttercup of commentary that will appease you for at least a few minutes. Squid Game has taken the world by storm. For me, as for many other avid watchers of the show, Squid Game has kept audiences glued to its originality, its writing, and its strong underlying themes. Even the best of the best should always strive for improvement, and I believe that Squid Game is no exception. The following we go into what elements of the Squid Game rocked my socks off, which bits left a bit of a sour taste, and a little tidbit or two to help improve it. The characters throughout the Squid Game evolve and develop as challenge after challenge is thrusted upon them. Each game is meticulously designed to break down each contestant to their most animalistic version of themselves. Each of the rest periods, if you can call them that, in between games are structured to rip apart bonds formed and deprive the contestants of the most basic needs. The characters in the forefront of the show go through character arcs that would leave the big screen comic book world writers trembling in their boots. To them, the writer of the Squid Game might as well be Ludwig van Beethoven scribbling out his Symphony No. 3, while they are occasionally hitting a correct note from a politically correct recorder shoved up their nose. The depth of the character development wasn't limited to just the main characters either. The supporting roles were given just enough screen time for the decisions and emotions to be fully intertwined with the main characters, but without breaking the tension by hogging the screen time. There's a few standout lead roles that do deserve a closer look at. As the main protagonist of the Squid Game, Gi-hun battles through the challenges set before him and manages to maintain being a likeable character even while being an awful father and perhaps an even worse son. Through strife and his almost unwavering optimism, the games bring out his caring and considerate nature. This leads the audience to truly believe Gi-hun is a nice guy that's a situation not of his own making, and so therefore is innocent and very relatable. Ultimately, it's his missteps of this altruistic path that do truly bring his character to life. Everyone has done something a bit shit to someone that doesn't deserve it for their own self-interest, and with that the audience have the opportunity to relate and to feel a need to invest in his story. The only discrepancy I had noticed would be his relationship with his daughter. It starts out as being built around trying to prove her his worth, as he attempts to shower her with expensive gifts and an expensive meal for her birthday, while ultimately falling short by accidentally gifting her a fake gun. Whoops! His desperation for her approval even pushes Gi-hun to steal money from his mother and to unashamedly gamble with it. After winning the Squid Game, Gi-hun simply doesn't give a rat's ass about his daughter. Although his desire to impress his daughter would seemingly be below his new character state, to not try and see her for at least a year seems absolutely alien to his character and actively goes against his considerate persona that has been built up. I will touch base with this concept again during the discussion of the finale. Being thrust into behind the scenes of the Squid Game, Gi-hun provides a peek behind the curtain. On his search for his brother, the super secret sneaky police officer a little too conveniently seems to wander in and amongst almost everything of relevance that is happening outside of the contestants' arenas. Gi-hun was a tool of exposition throughout, and this showed with his lack of character development, an incredible knack to blunder through a purposely designed maze to always end up where he would best further his investigation. We, as the audience, are forced to overlook that the whole reason he infiltrated the Squid Game was to find his brother. A brother that was missing due to a rent not being paid for 1 month. A brother that, even though when found, was clearly a full-time employment as the number one of an incredibly rich man's personal playground. A brother that, in as aforementioned position, would have excessive money to cover the cost of a small apartment. A brother that needed to be missing for missed exposition to enter the fray, and so he was. Nearly every time the show moved back to following the antics of Gi-hun, the tension within the episode would fall off a cliff, and just like that, I was back to my embarrassingly small living room, sitting on a slightly lumpy sofa. I love so much of this series that it sucked me in and didn't let me go for long periods of time. Unfortunately though, forced exposition is, and always will be, jarring for the audience. The possible idea for improving this character requires such a small change, and I believe embeds this character into the storyline, adding a real weight to his actions. Have the brother take part in the Squid Game. Firstly, the brother is to have been, and this is shown through flashback, caught up in drug running and caught by Gi-hun. Gi-hun unlawfully releases his brother while confiscating the drugs he was smuggling, leaving the brother a desperate man who owes a drug cartel a lot of money, just like the desperate men and women who turn to the Squid Game in order to be free of debt. Secondly, instead of having the Squid Game contestants all get taken in one night, have the cars that take the contestants over a 2 to 3 week long period with them putting into prison, and where they're treated quite well before the games begin. This then allows for Gi-hun's brother to be taken as a contestant in an earlier wave of recruitment, go missing, Jun-ho turned to realise he's missing since he's keeping close tabs on his brother due to the recent drug running, and then the investigation to begin. Finally, with the guilt of his brother's death on his hands, the investigation is far more personal. The stealing of organs subplot becomes much more poignant to the audience as Jun-ho is terrified to open a box and see his brother staring back up at him. The scene in which Jun-ho is serving the VIPs would be the scene he realises and sees his brother fighting for his life in the games for the first time, and the laughter and joviality of the VIPs fuels a fire within him must be contained if he's to bring the organisers of the Squid Game to justice. The audience would feel empathetic towards Jun-ho. His brother was there because he caught him, because he took the drugs off him, because he let him go, because he wasn't able to protect him. His brother would die in front of him, and he would only blame himself. That's the sort of character motivation that would superglue my ass to the seat. Last but no means least, we can scrap that awkward shoehorned in reveal that his brother was the right hand man to the VIPs leading the Squid Game. The reveal did not add anything to the story. As to the audience, the brother's only defining feature was that he was the brother of the police officer. Squid Game takes place in some of the most impressive sets, with occasions of having over 400 actors in the same shot. You cannot use VFX to add the amount of detail of having such a large number of unique and different people in the same shot. It gave the games an amazing sense of scale, and by the speed at which the numbers were cut down even more dramatic. Games such as Green Light, Red Light and Marbles are works of art by themselves. The tension was palpable throughout, with the twists and turns littering the screen. Marbles was especially moving, with couples teamed up to support each other, inevitably having to fight against each other for survival. By far and away the best episode for me. Even with the games on average knocking it out of the ballpark, there's still areas of some of the games that didn't meet the high standards, and the following would be my recommendations to improve them. Tug of War, a battle of strength and technique, is a wonderful tension builder within itself, each team edging slowly towards victory or defeat. There is genuine risk to everyone that takes part. One slip and your whole team will falter and end up on the new floor decoration in the arena. There's only one way to disrupt this tension, one way to take away the risk to those involved that the audience is invested in. Have all the main characters on the same team. By not splitting up the core characters of the show, there was no way of this team ever losing, no matter the odds. The build-up and the character development meant that these are the characters the audience would be rooting for. The extras in the other teams, the gang members team excluded as it was clear they would win with the insider knowledge, had next to no association with the audience and would clearly be pushed aside to allow the main cast to sail through. With the main characters split and put against each other, a tense atmosphere would envelop the game as an audience is now invested in both teams. However, I do think the way the main characters did meet their individual ends was brilliant to watch, and I wouldn't want to strip that out of the Squid Game. It just felt this game was a contestant number thinner, rather than a risk to the main characters or a thought-provoking action. The final episode was a tantalising dive into the desperation of the two final contestants, each one having sacrificed more than they ever thought they would on the individual roads to the last game. The conclusion of the games was very satisfying too as a viewer. The main character arcs were all treated with respect, and each character had its own mini finale. The last episode was a beautiful carrot cake to end on after enjoying the delicious calamari I just spent 8 hours feeding on. Well, kind of. The first half was my carrot cake. The second half was the extra portion of cake I always regret taking. After Gi-hun's mother is found dead, the story takes an odd turn where the characters start behaving differently to their previous built-up persona. Revelations are shown to the audience but do not add anything extra to the story. A sudden change of hearts are all the rage. Gi-hun was a man who was fighting hard to be able to look after two particular people in his life, his mother and his daughter. Whether or not it's for the right reasons, these two people were very much behind most of his decisions outside and inside the Squid Game. Whether it was entering in the first place for the money to support, or sticking to his morals as to maintain being someone he'd want his daughter to grow into, Gi-hun was very driven by family. For this just to stop after his mother passes, when he has the resources to finally help the one person left in his life, he just doesn't bother? Sounds a bit fishy to me. The reveal of In-Nam being some kind of Bond villain level mastermind behind the Squid Game was the information that Gi-hun needed to suddenly remember again that he actually did have a daughter, and that he did promise to look after the two families of the two final contestants, both of which have no idea where their loved ones have been for over a year now. Once again, a very odd sequence of events that just stood out awkwardly at the end. Finally, to be practically boarding the plane to see your only daughter, a daughter you've already blown off for over a year, in order to chase down the man that started off your Squid Game nightmare a year ago, just seems absolutely crazy. I understand seeing it happen and trying to stop the act with that individual, but to give up on seeing your daughter? Gi-hun was a people's champion, not an action man fighter trying to solve the world's problems. His character is based around compassion and self-preservation, and running from his daughter towards a place with hundreds of armed guards doesn't seem any of those to me. The perfect final scene for me would have been the scene with Gi-hun finding his mother dead on the floor. He wrapped his arms around her, possibly the first hug he's actually given her in years, and falls asleep, defeated. This vision of even the winner of the Squid Game, a man with practically infinite wealth, still loses in the end. No one wins at life. No one wins the Squid Game. Everyone chosen is a loser. It's their present. It's their destiny. If you stuck around long enough to hear this, I'm grateful for your patience and appreciate you lending an ear for the duration of the video. Do stick in the comments any plot changes you would make to the Squid Game. I'd love to read them. For me, Squid Game was an oasis in the desert of film and television writing. I hope writers and directors take heed of its success and really start to push the boat out. It's worth taking the leap. Please do like and subscribe if you wish to hear more from me. It's been my pleasure. I'll see you next time.